Welcome to the Training for Translators podcast.
Do better work, earn more money, and enjoy your job with our weekly episodes for ambitious freelance translators and interpreters.
Visit our website at trainingfortranslators.com to subscribe to our newsletter, learn more about our upcoming classes, or read blog post versions of our podcast.
Now here's your host, Corinne McKay.
Greetings, listeners, and welcome to episode 2 of the Training for Translators podcast. I'm Corinne McKay. I've been a full-time freelancer since 2002. I am certified by the American Translators Association for French to English translation. I'm court certified for French interpreting by the state of Colorado in the U.S., where I live, and I have a Master of Conference Interpreting from Glendon College in Toronto, Canada. I'm the author of How to Succeed as a Freelance Translator, a business guidebook with over 15,000 copies in print. In this week's episode, we are going to talk about how to find potential direct clients to market to. The post that inspired this episode originally appeared on the Training for Translators blog on February 13th, 2024, with the title, 4 Sources of Potential Direct Clients. If you would like to read a text version of this podcast episode, or if you would like to leave a comment on the blog post that inspired it, just go to trainingfortranslators.com, click the blog tab, and then if you put the words 4 sources into the search box, I actually think it's the only blog post I ever wrote in 1,060 blog posts. I think it's the only blog post I ever wrote that has the words 4 sources in the title. Here we go. Let's talk about a basic concept of direct client marketing, determining who might need your services. I started thinking about this because when I teach direct client marketing classes, it is not unusual for people to say, I understand how to do this, but I get stuck before I even start because I don't know what types of clients might need me. And here I'm going to pause from reading the post and say, one key ingredient if you are new to marketing to direct clients is that you have to have a specialization. Why? Because otherwise you don't know who to market to. So I'll tell you a funny story, which is that the first translation agency interview that I ever went on, which was to an agency here in Colorado that still exists, the project manager that I was interviewing with asked me, what are your specializations? And I did not even know that translators specialized. I was thinking, hey, isn't the fact that I, know another language enough? And it is true that if you work only for agencies, you can, kind of sort of get away with being a generalist, or perhaps by defining yourself by your non-specializations. For example, I have never done scientific and technical translation. So sometimes I would tell agency clients, I do mostly international development, legal that doesn't require a lawyer, and corporate communications, but I do not do scientific and technical. But the thing is, to dive into the direct client market, you have to have a pretty defined specialization because it is essentially impossible to research potential clients if you're looking for, anyone and everyone who needs a German translator. So that being said, I wanted to talk about 4 main ways that you might find potential direct clients if you are stuck at this point of, I can't even start a direct client marketing campaign because I have no idea where I might find potential clients. First idea, clients that are similar, and there's a reason I'm emphasizing that word, similar to your agency clients' end clients. Now, the important thing here is that you should never, ever, let me say that again, never market to your agency clients' end clients, whether for translation, interpreting, or any other service. Number one, it is probably a complete violation of your contract with the agency. Basically, every agency client on earth has a non-compete agreement in their contract. And I think even if one of your agency's end clients approaches you, you should just immediately tell the agency, either don't even respond to them or respond just to say, I'm going to need you to, work this out through the agency because I work for them, not for you. Even if you don't have a formal written contract, I think it is also totally unethical to work for your agency's end clients because the agency did the work to land and retain that client. But analyzing who is buying the work, whether it's translation or interpreting, that you're doing for your agency clients can be a really good springboard for direct client marketing. To be honest, that is how I got started with international development translation. So if you have never heard that term before, it's translating for usually non-governmental organizations, sometimes private charitable foundations, and sometimes government entities who work in the international development sector. I had no idea that international development was even its own specialization until one of my really good agency clients, like 263 years ago, probably back in, I think, 2005, offered me some work translating for an NGO, a non-governmental organization. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting and feels meaningful and aligns with a lot of my own interests. And it made me think correctly, this can't be the only NGO or development entity on the face of the earth that has the need and budget for professional translation services. And that was my very first direct client marketing campaign. I sent out paper letters to about 100 NGOs that looked to me like they might have a need for French to English translation. And through that, I got, I believe, either 2 or 3 excellent direct clients. Number 2, professional organizations for your specializations. Professional organizations can be really valuable, both in terms of potential clients for you and continuing education and networking opportunities that can help you do better work and get more of a sense of what is going on in your areas of specialization. Now, there is literally a professional association for every industry or sector on earth. If you look at the text version of this post on my blog, I linked to professional associations for immigration lawyers, the museum sector, clinical trial organizations, and private investigators. Every profession on earth has a professional association. Now you're thinking, what good are they? Well, they are a lot of good. The real gold mine is if they have a membership directory that you can use to find the names of potential clients. You don't want to directly use those directories for marketing purposes because the contact information in there could be outdated and it is probably also technically prohibited. Like if the professional association has a feature where you can directly email someone, for example, through the membership directory, don't do it. Just use the membership directory as a list of names of potential clients, and then you're going to go research them on your own, which I'll talk about after I talk about the 4 ways. Maybe this professional association also has a continuing education series that you could participate in to learn more about what that sector or industry does. Maybe they have webinars, maybe they have conferences, maybe they have a newsletter you can subscribe to, which again is going to help you learn about the sector or industry and give you ideas of potential clients. Maybe you could even write an article for that newsletter or journal or magazine on best practices for working with a translator or interpreter. Maybe you could attend their conference. Professional associations are just a real gold mine of a lot of potential client ideas and just education and networking opportunities for you. So before we go on to the third source, which is job search sites, here is a short message from Training for Translators. Greetings, listeners. If you're enjoying this podcast, you should think about taking a class with Training for Translators. You can learn more about that at my website, trainingfortranslators.com. My self-paced 4-week classes, Getting Started as a Freelance Translator or Interpreter in the Age of AI, and Direct Client Marketing Launchpad, run twice a year and are always open for registration. You can also check out our monthly masterclasses taught by me and a select roster of guest instructors. After my recent masterclass on marketing to direct clients and increasing your income, a student commented, "This class was just what I was looking for. It introduced a whole new set of marketing methods and helped me set realistic expectations for myself." I really appreciated that Corinne included both practical steps and concrete examples to support her recommendations. If you'd like those types of results in your own business, hop on over to trainingfortranslators.com and click the Upcoming Classes tab. Welcome back. And now let's talk about the third source of potential clients, which is job search site. Now, you are wondering, why on earth am I recommending to use job search sites when the chances are that there aren't going to be many or perhaps any translator or interpreter postings there, and you don't want a full-time job anyway, right? That's why you're here, is to succeed as a freelancer. But even though we are not looking for in-house jobs, job search sites can give us a lot of direct client leads. Let's say that you went to Devex.com. That's Devex. Actually, I can't remember if it's .com or .org. Just Google Devex and you'll find it, which is, quote unquote, the media platform for the global development community. So if you want to translate for the international development sector, NGOs, Devex is where you go. And on there, let's say you clicked the Jobs tab and you put the word French into the search box, and you found a posting for an NGO that is hiring a financial analyst who has to speak French. Now, if you are a French to English or English to French translator, that tells you that this NGO may need your services because they have bilingual staff, right? They have staff who speak English and French, which tells you that they work in both of those languages. You could then go and find some of their employees on LinkedIn and reference that ad. You could say something like, "I noticed that you are hiring for a French-speaking financial analyst, and I can imagine that you might need a French to English translator as part of this project." I'm going to talk more about actual contact methods later, but that's the basics. You can do this also with just mainstream job search sites like LinkedIn or Indeed. It's just a lot easier if you find a job search site for your specialization, and there are lots of those specialized job search sites out there. Now let's talk about the fourth source, which is agencies, but agencies for your specializations, not translation agencies. So in our profession, when we say agency, we tend to think exclusively of translation and interpreting agencies. But just like there are professional associations for every job under the sun, tons of industries have agencies. There are legal services agencies that provide freelance professionals for depositions. Lots of times they are asked to provide court reporters. That's kind of their bread and butter work. But often they are asked to secure an interpreter if an interpreter is needed for a deposition. There are content marketing agencies that help companies create marketing optimized blog posts and newsletters. There are SEO agencies. Maybe some of their clients work in multiple languages, or better yet, should be working in multiple languages, and you are getting in on the ground floor of a company that is going global. There are credentials evaluation agencies that help international professionals transfer their credentials to another country. So, for example, I do lots of translations for French-speaking veterinarians, engineers, dentists who are moving to the U.S. and need to go through a credentials evaluation agency to be able to work here. And all of that stuff has to be translated. There are international relocation agencies who are often asked to provide referrals to translators where people are saying, we're moving to Brazil and now we need all of our kids' school documentation translated into Portuguese so that we can enroll them in school there. So I think all of these ways can be really helpful because particularly if this is your first time working with direct clients, it can be intimidating to think about who might need you. But I hope that these ideas are helpful. I did want to briefly talk about, this is a topic for another episode, but I did want to briefly talk about now what? Then what do you do? And I wanted to really recommend, if you have never done direct client marketing, you need to read some of Ed Gandia's stuff. So his first name is Ed, just Ed, last name Gandia, Gandia. And he runs a podcast called High Income Business Writing, which is also, I think, applicable. Lots of what he writes and talks about is applicable to translators and interpreters. His website is b2blauncher.com, and the 2 is the numeral 2. So it's the letter B, the number 2, the letter B, launcher.com, or just Google Ed Gandia and you'll find him. And the way I learned to do direct client marketing was by reading Ed Gandia's book, which is called Warm Email Prospecting: How to Use Short and Simple Emails to Land Better Freelance Writing Clients. And again, 90% of what Ed Gandia writes and talks about is applicable to freelance translators and interpreters as well. And this is a really short ebook. You can get it on Amazon for $10 US, and it has a lot of the, reasoning behind doing prospecting by email, and more importantly, scripts for using these short, simple, very targeted emails to get better clients for your freelance work. So that whole thing, the contact methods are, kind of their own. I'd like to devote a whole episode to those. But in the meantime, if you have never done this before, I would highly recommend Ed Gandia's stuff just to get a sense of what you do once you find these potential clients. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 2 of the Training for Translators podcast. Thank you so much for being here and listening, and I really hope that it was helpful. The Training for Translators podcast is hosted by me, Corinne McKay. The intro and outro were created and recorded by Shadow Studio. The podcast is hosted on Libsyn and recorded and mixed in Audacity using a Shure MV7 Plus microphone. Hope to talk to you in a future episode.
Thanks for listening to the Training for Translators podcast, helping you do better work, earn more money, and enjoy your job.
To leave a comment, learn more about our upcoming classes, or read blog post versions of our podcast, visit our website at trainingfortranslators.com.
If you enjoy the Training for Translators podcast, please tell your colleagues and friends about it and leave us a review in your favorite podcast app.